The great council chamber of the Valerian Empire buzzed with nervous energy. Emperor Taemin sat on his crystal throne, his blue skin pale with worry. Around the massive circular table, his most trusted advisors whispered among themselves. The news was bad. Very bad. "Show me the reports again," the Emperor commanded. General Wu Jin pressed a button on his datapad. A holographic image appeared in the center of the room. It showed a star system that had been beautiful just weeks ago. Now it was nothing but dead rocks floating in empty space. "The Kepler system is gone," General Wu Jin said quietly. 3 billion lives, all consumed." Princess So Young leaned forward in her chair. Her long silver hair fell across her shoulders as she studied the image. She had seen many battles in her 25 years, but nothing like this. "What exactly are we fighting?" she asked. "The Void Swarm," answered Dr. Minho, the Empire's chief scientist. "Ancient texts call them the Eaters of Worlds. They have been sleeping for over 10,000 years. Now they are awake and hungry." The hologram changed to show strange, dark creatures that looked like insects mixed with machines. They moved in perfect formation, millions of them working together, like one giant mind. "They consume everything," Dr. Minho continued. "Planets, stars, even the space dust between worlds. Whatever they touch becomes part of them. Our weapons barely slow them down." Emperor Taemin rubbed his temples. The weight of ruling an empire of 50 worlds suddenly felt very heavy. "What do our military experts suggest?" General Wu Jin cleared his throat. "Sir, our conventional forces cannot stop them. We have run battle simulations. Even with all our allied fleets working together, we would lose." "Then what do you propose?" the Emperor asked. The general hesitated. He looked around the table at the other advisors. None of them wanted to say what they were all thinking. "Speak freely," the Emperor ordered. "We need to hire a human warrior," General Wu Jin said quickly. The room fell silent. Princess So Young felt her blood turn cold. Several advisors gasped. Dr. Minho dropped his datapad. "A human?" Princess So Young stood up from her chair. "Father, surely you cannot be serious." "Emperor." Taemin studied his daughter's face. He had known this moment would come eventually. The humans had a reputation throughout the galaxy. They were feared by every civilized species. Stories of their wars were told to frighten children into behaving. "What human do you have in mind?" the Emperor asked. "Li Hansol," General Wu Jin replied. "They call him the ghost of 1,000 worlds. He has fought in more battles than any living being. He has never lost a war." Princess So Young slammed her hand on the table. "The humans are monsters. They fight without honor. They kill without mercy. They use weapons that civilized beings would never dream of creating." "That is exactly why we need one," said Admiral Kiang-su from across the table. "The Void Swarm is not civilized. It does not follow the rules of honorable combat. Perhaps we need someone who also does not follow those rules." "Listen to yourself." Princess So Young turned to face the Admiral. "You want us to become like them? To abandon everything that makes us better than savages?" Emperor Taemin raised his hand for silence. "Daughter, sit down." Princess So Young remained standing. "Father, our own forces are strong. Our allies will help us. We can find another way." "Sit down," the Emperor repeated firmly. Princess So Young slowly returned to her seat. Her hands shook with anger and fear. "I have already made my decision," Emperor Taemin announced. "General Wu Jin, send the message to Hansol immediately. Offer him whatever payment he demands." "Father, please," Princess So Young begged. "Not the human warrior. Anyone else. We can hire Zentorian mercenaries. We can ask the Crystalline Federation for help. Anything but this." The Emperor looked at his daughter with sad eyes. "My child, I have lived for 200 years. I have seen many wars. Sometimes, to protect what we love, we must do things that frighten us." "But the humans are different," Princess So Young insisted. "They enjoy fighting. They celebrate destruction. Their warriors are trained from childhood to feel nothing when they kill." "Perhaps," said the Emperor, "but they also win their wars." Meanwhile, on the distant frontier planet of New Busan, Han Solo was fixing his old spaceship when the message arrived. He was a tall man, with scars covering his arms and face. His black hair was turning gray, and his brown eyes had seen too much death. The encrypted message played on his ship's communication system. Emperor Taemin's voice filled the small cabin. Lee Han Sol, the Valerian Empire requires your services. The Void Swarm threatens all life in this sector. We offer 50 million credits and full Imperial honors. Please respond within 24 hours. Han Sol turned off the message and went back to working on his ship's engine. He had heard of the Void Swarm from old spacer tales. If the stories were true, this would be the hardest fight of his life. For 3 hours, he worked in silence. He had fought so many wars for so many different species. The Crystalline Wars, the Nebula Campaign, the defense of Proxima Station. Each time, he had done what needed to be done. Each time, he had paid the price in blood and nightmares. He was tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of being the monster that other species needed but could never love. But as the sun set over New Busan, Han Sol thought about his own people back on Earth. If the Void Swarm consumed the Valerian Empire, they would grow stronger. Eventually, they would reach human space. His own children and grandchildren would face these creatures. Han Sol walked to his communication console and recorded. His reply: Emperor Taemin, I accept your contract. I will arrive at your capital in 6 days. But I have conditions. I choose my own methods. I choose my own weapons, and no one questions my orders during battle. If you cannot agree to this, find someone else. He sent the message and began preparing for another war. Outside his ship, the stars looked peaceful and bright. But Han Sol knew that somewhere in that darkness, an ancient evil was moving toward them all. The ghost of 1,000 worlds was going to war once more. The docking bay of the massive Valerian warship Eternal Dawn was completely silent as Han Sol's small fighter craft landed. Princess So Young stood with her honor guard, watching the human ship with disgust. It was ugly and scarred, nothing like the beautiful curved designs of Valerian vessels. The ship's door opened with a loud hiss. Han Sol stepped out wearing simple black clothing and carrying a single bag. He was not what Princess So Young had expected. She had imagined all human. Warriors would be huge and frightening. This man looked ordinary, almost tired. But when Han Sol looked at her with those dark eyes, Princess So Young felt a chill run down her spine. There was something cold and empty in his gaze, like looking into deep space. Princess, Han Sol said, with a small bow. His voice was quiet and calm. I am honored to serve your empire. The honor is yours, Princess So Young replied stiffly. She did not bow back. Follow me. My father wishes to speak with you immediately. As they walked through the ship's corridors, Princess So Young noticed how the crew reacted to Han Sol. Valerian soldiers who had fought in dozens of battles stepped aside and avoided looking at him. Word had spread quickly that a human warrior was aboard. They entered the war room where Emperor Taemin waited with his generals. The emperor stood and extended his hand in the human custom of greeting. Han Sol, thank you for coming, the emperor said as they shook hands. The situation has grown worse since we contacted you. General Wu Jin activated the holographic display. New images appeared showing 3 more star systems that had gone dark. The Void Swarm is moving faster than we predicted, General Wu Jin explained. At this rate, they will reach our outer colonies within 2 months. Han Sol studied the star, maps without emotion. He asked several questions about swarm movement patterns and attack methods. His questions were practical and direct, unlike the formal speech patterns the Valerians used. I need to see one of their attack sites, Han Sol finally said. Real data, not reports. Princess So Young spoke up. That would be extremely dangerous. No ship has returned from swarm territory. Han Sol looked at her with those cold eyes again. Princess, I did not come here to be safe. I came here to win a war. Emperor Taemin nodded. Princess So Young will escort you to the Kepler system ruins tomorrow. She commands our fastest scout ship. Father, Princess So Young protested. Surely someone else could. You will go, the emperor said firmly. It is time you learned about our new ally. The next morning, Princess So Young met Han Sol in the hangar bay. Her ship, the Silver Wind, was a masterpiece of Valerian engineering. It was fast, elegant, and armed with the latest weapons technology. They prepared for departure. Captain Ji-hoon approached Princess So-young. He had been her friend since childhood and now served as her first officer. "Your Highness, I do not like this," Ji-hoon whispered. "That human makes everyone nervous. Even the veteran soldiers are afraid of him." "I feel the same way," Princess So-young admitted. "But Father's orders are clear. We must work with him." The journey to Kepler system took 18 hours. During the trip, Princess So-young tried to understand Han Sol better. She found him reading technical manuals about swarm biology in the ship's library. "You study your enemies carefully," she observed. "I study everything carefully," Han Sol replied. "That is why I am still alive." "How many wars have you fought?" Princess So-young asked. Han Sol was quiet for a moment. "Too many." "Do you enjoy it?" "The fighting?" This time Han Sol looked directly at her. "Princess, no sane person enjoys war. We fight because someone has to. We kill because someone has to. We become monsters because someone has to." Princess So-young did not understand his answer, but something in his voice made her stop asking questions. When they reached the Kepler system, Princess So-young gasped in horror. The beautiful planets she remembered from diplomatic visits were gone. In their place were dark, twisted masses that looked like cancerous growths. Strange structures grew out of the dead worlds like metal trees. "Dear ancestors," Captain Ji-hoon whispered. "What have they done?" Han Sol studied the scene calmly. "They are farming, converting matter into more of themselves." "How many people lived here?" 3 billion, Princess So-young answered quietly. "They are all part of the swarm now," Han Sol said. "Those structures are breeding facilities. They will produce millions of new swarm units." Suddenly, alarm bells rang throughout the ship. "Contact!" shouted the sensor operator. "Swarm scouts approaching fast!" Princess So-young ran to the command chair. "Evasive maneuvers, prepare weapons!" "Wait," Han Sol said calmly. "How many ships?" 12 small scouts, the sensor operator replied. "Let them get closer," Han Sol ordered. "Are you insane?" Princess So-young demanded. "They will destroy us!" "Trust me," Han Sol said. He moved to the weapons console and began entering commands. The swarm scouts closed in on the Silver Wind. They were ugly, twisted things that looked like infected metal. Their weapons glowed with sickly green light. "Now," Han Sol said softly, and pressed a button. The Silver Wind's weapons fired, but not normal energy beams. Instead, they shot out clouds of some kind of gas. The swarm scouts flew directly into the clouds. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the scouts began spinning wildly. Their green lights flickered and went out. One by one, they crashed into nearby asteroids. "What did you do?" Princess So-young asked in amazement. "Biological warfare," Han Sol explained. "I loaded your weapons with a virus designed to attack swarm neural networks. Your weapons officers will hate it, but it works." Princess So-young stared at him in shock. That is a war crime under galactic law." "Yes," Han Sol agreed. "It is also effective against an enemy that does not follow galactic law." As they flew back to the fleet, Princess So-young began to understand what her father had done. He had not just hired a warrior. He had hired someone willing to do terrible things so that civilized people would not have to. She was still not sure if that made Han Sol a hero or a monster. Maybe he was both. 3 weeks passed since the reconnaissance mission to Kepler system. Princess So-young watched from the bridge of the Silver Wind as strange new weapons were installed on her beautiful ship. Han Sol had requisitioned materials from across the fleet, building devices that made even veteran soldiers uncomfortable. "What exactly is that thing?" Captain Ji-hoon asked, pointing at a large metal cylinder being welded to the ship's hull. "The human calls it a spore bomb," Princess So-young replied quietly. "It uses swarm biology against them somehow." Ji-hoon's blue skin turned pale. "That sounds horrible." "It is," Princess So-young agreed. "But it destroyed an entire swarm breeding facility yesterday. The past weeks had been difficult for everyone. Han Solo worked day and night, turning their proud fleet into something unrecognizable. Elegant Valerian warships now carried ugly human modifications. Beautiful energy weapons were replaced with crude but effective chemical launchers. The crew hated it. Every day, Princess So Young received reports of soldiers requesting transfers. They could not stand working alongside the human warrior and his terrible weapons, but the weapons worked. 3 more swarm attacks had been repelled using Han Solo's tactics. For the first time in months, the enemy was retreating instead of advancing. "Princess," came a voice from behind her. Princess So Young turned to see Han Solo approaching. He looked even more tired than usual. Dark circles surrounded his eyes, and his hands were stained with chemicals from weapon construction. "The modifications are complete," Han Solo reported. "Your ship is ready for the next phase." "Which is?" Princess So Young asked. "We hunt," Han Solo said simply. "Instead of waiting for them to attack us, we attack them. Hit their supply lines! Destroy their breeding grounds! Make them afraid!" Captain Ji-hoon stepped forward. "That goes against all military doctrine. Honorable warfare requires—" "Honor?" Han Solo interrupted. "Captain, the swarm does not understand honor. They understand only hunger and fear. So we make them hungry and afraid." "You talk about making enemies feel fear as if it is a good thing," Princess So Young said. Han Solo looked at her with those cold, dark eyes. "Fear keeps them from thinking clearly. Fear makes them make mistakes. Fear is a weapon just like any other." That night, Princess So Young could not sleep. She walked the ship's corridors, thinking about everything that had changed. Her beautiful vessel now looked like a monster. Her crew whispered nervously about their human ally. Even she felt different, as if something pure inside her had been tainted. She found Han Solo in the ship's small garden, sitting quietly among the flowering plants. In the soft light, he looked almost peaceful. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked, sitting down beside him. "Regret what?" Han Solo replied. "Becoming what you are. Doing the things you do." Han Solo was quiet for a long moment. He touched one of the flowers gently, as if afraid he might damage it. "Every day," he finally said. "Every single day." "Then why do you continue?" "Because someone has to," Han Solo answered. "Your people are good, Princess. They create beautiful things. They write poetry and music. They build gardens in their spaceships. The galaxy needs people like you. But sometimes, good people need protection from things that want to destroy goodness. That is what humans do. We become the darkness so you can stay in the light." Princess So Young did not know what to say. She had never thought about it that way before. The next morning, their fleet received an urgent message from the outer colonies. A massive swarm force was moving toward the mining world of Talon 7. 2 million civilians were trapped on the planet's surface. "We can evacuate maybe half of them before the swarm arrives," General Wu Jin reported from the flagship. "No," Han Solo said over the communication link. "We save them all." "Impossible," General Wu Jin replied. "The swarm fleet is too large. We would be destroyed." "Not if we use the right strategy," Han Solo said. "Princess So Young, plot a course for Talon 7, maximum speed." As the silver wind raced toward the threatened world, Han Solo explained his plan. It was risky and involved tactics that made Princess So Young's stomach turn. But she was beginning to understand that sometimes the choice was between terrible options and even worse ones. They arrived at Talon 7 just as the swarm fleet entered the system. The enemy force was huge, over 300 ships of various sizes. The largest vessels were the size of small moons, covered in the twisted metal growths that served as swarm weapons. "All ships, this is the Silver Wind," Princess So Young announced over the fleet communication system. "Begin attack pattern Ghost 7. The Valerian fleet split into small groups and began hit-and-run attacks on the swarm formation. But these were not normal attacks. Instead of trying to destroy enemy ships, they targeted specific systems: communication arrays, navigation computers, sensor networks. "We are not trying to kill them quickly," Han Solo explained to Captain Ji-hoon. "We are making them blind, deaf, and stupid." The strategy worked. The swarm ships began firing wildly, often hitting each other instead of the Valerian vessels. Their perfect coordination broke down into chaos. While the fleet kept the swarm busy, Han Solo took a small team down to the planet's surface. They did not go to help with the evacuation. Instead, they went to the planet's largest industrial facility. "What are we doing here?" asked Commander Dong-hyun, one of Han Sol's human assistants who had arrived with supply ships. "We are going to give the swarm something they cannot resist," Han Sol replied. Working quickly, the team modified the factory's fusion reactors. When they were finished, the facility was broadcasting a signal that would attract every swarm unit in the system. "This is insane," Princess So-young said over the radio. "If they all come here, we will be trapped." "That is the plan," Han Sol replied calmly. "Sometimes, Princess, you have to be willing to risk everything to save everyone." The plan worked perfectly. The entire swarm fleet abandoned their attack on the evacuation ships and rushed toward the factory. They surrounded the building, pouring thousands of troops inside. That was when Han Sol triggered the trap. The modified reactors did not explode. Instead, they released a massive pulse of energy that scrambled every swarm neural network within. 50 kilometers. The enemy force simply shut down, their troops falling lifeless to the ground. The evacuation was completed successfully. Every civilian was saved. The swarm fleet was destroyed or disabled. But as Princess So-young watched the aftermath from orbit, she realized she felt different. She had helped plan an attack that used the enemy's own nature against them. She had participated in tactics that other species would call dishonorable. She was becoming more like Han Sol. The thought should have frightened her. Instead, she found it strangely comforting. The final battle was coming. Princess So-young stood in the main war room aboard the Eternal Dawn, watching the largest gathering of ships in galactic history. The Valerian Empire had called in every favor, every alliance, every debt. Over 2,000 vessels from dozens of different species floated in formation around the Empire's capital world. "The swarm's main force will arrive in 6 hours, Dr. Minho reported. His voice shook as he spoke. "Long-range sensors show over 10,000 ships. Some of them are larger than our entire fleet." Emperor Taemin sat in his command chair, looking older than his 200 years. The stress of the war had aged him greatly. "What are our chances?" he asked. General Wu Jin looked at his datapad nervously. "Even with all our allies, we are outnumbered 5-1. Conventional tactics give us a 12% chance of victory." "What about unconventional tactics?" the Emperor asked, looking at Han Sol. The human warrior stood apart from the others, studying a holographic display of the swarm fleet. He had been quiet for hours, analyzing enemy formations and movement patterns. "There is a way," Han Sol finally said, "but it requires something no one has ever attempted before." "Explain," Princess So-young demanded. Han Sol manipulated the hologram, highlighting one massive ship at the center of the enemy formation. It was easily 10 times larger than any other vessel, covered in pulsing organic growths that looked like a diseased brain. "That is the Queen Mind," Han Sol explained. "The central intelligence that controls the entire swarm. Destroy it, and the rest will fall into chaos." "But how?" asked Admiral Kyung-soo. "That ship is protected by thousands of others. No weapon we have can reach it." "No weapon," Han Sol agreed. "But a person could reach it. Someone small and fast enough to slip through their defenses." Princess So-young felt her blood turn cold. "You mean a suicide mission?" "Yes," Han Sol said simply. "Someone has to get inside that ship and destroy the Queen Mind directly. They would not survive." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what Han Sol was suggesting. Someone would have to sacrifice their life to save everyone else. "I will do it," Han Sol continued. "I have studied swarm biology for weeks. I know how to kill their Queen Mind, and I have the right equipment." He touched a small device on his belt. Princess So-young recognized it as a human neural implant, the kind that connected directly to the brain. "Human thoughts are chaotic and unpredictable," Han Sol explained. "The Queen Mind cannot process that kind of mental pattern. If I connect my implant directly to its consciousness, the feedback will destroy it." "And destroy you as well," Princess So-young said quietly. "Yes." Emperor Taemin stood up slowly. "Han Sol, you have already done more than we could have asked. Surely there is another way." "There is not," Han Sol replied. "But I do not go alone. I will need a small strike force. to get me to the Queen Mind. Volunteers only. Princess So Young stepped forward immediately. I will go with you. Absolutely not, her father said firmly. You are heir to the Empire. I will not risk. You said someone has to be willing to become the monster, Princess. So, Young interrupted, looking directly at Han Sol. Let me share that burden. Han Sol studied her face for a long moment. Then he nodded. Very well. But this mission will change you, Princess. If you survive, you will never be the same person you were before. I understand, Princess So Young replied, though she was not sure she really did. Captain Ji-hoon volunteered immediately, along with Commander Dong-hyun and 6 other soldiers from various species. They were a small group to face such a large enemy. The strike force prepared quickly. They took the fastest ship in the fleet, a small stealth vessel that could slip past enemy sensors. Han Sol loaded it with his most terrible weapons: biological agents, neural disruptors, and other devices that civilized beings preferred not to think about. As they prepared to launch, Emperor Taemin took his daughter aside. So Young, you do not have to do this, he said softly. I could order someone else to go. No, father, Princess So Young replied. I have learned something important these past weeks. Sometimes good people have to do terrible things. If I am to be Empress, I need to understand what that means. The mission began at dawn. While the main fleet engaged the swarm forces in a desperate battle, the strike force slipped through enemy lines. Princess So Young piloted the ship while Han Sol monitored swarm communications. They know we are here, he reported calmly. But they think we are just another scout ship. The Queen Mind is not concerned about us yet. Getting inside the massive Queen Mind ship was surprisingly easy. The swarm was so confident in their power that they had minimal internal defenses. Han Sol led the team through twisted corridors that pulsed like living tissue. This whole ship is alive, Captain Ji-hoon whispered in horror. Everything about the swarm is alive, Han Sol replied. That is what makes them so dangerous, and what makes them vulnerable to the right kind of attack. They reached the ship's center after 2 hours of careful movement. The Queen Mind itself was a massive organic brain floating in a pool of dark fluid. Cables and tubes connected it to every part of the ship. It is beautiful in a terrible way, Princess So Young said, staring at the alien intelligence. Yes, Han Sol agreed, but beauty does not make something good. He began setting up his equipment while the others kept watch. The neural connection device was complex and would take several minutes to activate properly. That was when the trap was sprung. Hundreds of swarm warriors poured into the chamber from hidden passages. The strike force fought desperately, but they were vastly outnumbered. Go! Princess So Young shouted to Han Sol. Complete the mission! Han Sol hesitated for just a moment. Then he activated the neural connection and pressed the device against the Queen Mind's pulsing surface. The effect was immediate and horrible. The Queen Mind began screaming, not with sound, but with pure mental anguish that everyone in the chamber could feel. Han Sol's body convulsed as his human consciousness flooded into the alien mind. Cannot process chaos, the Queen Mind somehow communicated. Order, breaking, help us. The massive brain began to crack and bleed. Throughout the swarm fleet, ships suddenly stopped moving as their controlling intelligence died. Some began firing randomly. Others simply drifted in space like dead metal. Han Sol collapsed next to the dying Queen Mind. Princess So Young ran to his side, but it was too late. The neural feedback had burned out his brain completely. Did we win? He whispered with his last breath. Yes, Princess So Young said, tears streaming down her face. We won. The surviving strike force members escaped as the Queen Mind ship began to tear itself apart. Princess So Young carried Han Sol's body with her, refusing to leave him behind. When they returned to the fleet, the battle was over. The swarm forces had indeed fallen into chaos after their Queen Mind died. Without central coordination, they were easily defeated or scattered. The galaxy was saved. But Princess So Young felt no joy in their victory. She had watched the bravest person she had ever known sacrifice everything for people who had feared and hated him. As she stood in the ship's medical bay looking down at Han Sol's peaceful face, Princess So Young finally understood what it meant to be a true warrior. It was not about strength or weapons or winning battles. It was about being willing to give everything so that others could live in peace. 6 months had passed since the final battle against the Void Swarm. Empress So Young stood in the memorial garden aboard the rebuilt capital ship, looking at the simple stone monument she had commissioned. Unlike most Valerian memorials, this one was not decorated with precious gems or elaborate carvings. It was plain and strong, just like the man it honored. Lee Han-sol, the inscription read, "Human warrior, savior of the galaxy. He became darkness so others could live in light." "Your Majesty," came a voice behind her. Empress So Young turned to see Captain Ji-hoon approaching. He walked with a slight limp now, a reminder of their final mission together. "The Galactic Council representatives have arrived," he reported. "They are waiting in the main conference room." Empress So Young nodded. Today would be important. She was going to propose something that had never been done before in galactic history. "And the other human?" she asked. "Commander Dong-hyun is also waiting," Ji-hoon confirmed. "He seems nervous about speaking to so many alien leaders." Empress So Young smiled slightly. "He should not be. After what I have learned about humans, I believe they deserve our respect, not our fear." The conference room was packed with representatives from over 50 different species. The atmosphere was tense. Many of the aliens still remembered the old stories about human warriors. They were afraid of what the Empress might propose. Empress So Young entered the room wearing simple robes instead of her usual royal finery. She had changed much since becoming ruler. Her advisors noticed that she spent less time on ceremony and more time on practical matters. "Fellow leaders," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the large chamber. 6 months ago, our worlds faced extinction. The Void Swarm would have consumed everything we had built over thousands of years. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Everyone remembered the dark days when entire star systems went silent. "We survived because one human warrior was willing to sacrifice everything for people who were not even his own species," the Empress continued. "Lee Han-sol gave his life so that all of us could continue to exist." Ambassador Veltar from the Crystalline Federation raised a questioning tentacle. "Your Majesty, we are all grateful for the human sacrifice. But why have you called this assembly?" Empress So Young gestured to Commander Dong-hyun, who stepped forward nervously. He was a quiet man with kind eyes, very different from the cold intensity of his former commander. "I have learned much about human culture from Commander Dong-hyun," the Empress said. "Humans are not the monsters we believe them to be. Yes, they are fierce warriors, but they are also poets and artists and philosophers. They create beauty even as they prepare for war." She activated a holographic display showing images from human worlds. Beautiful cities, peaceful farms, children playing in gardens. The assembled aliens looked surprised. This was not what they expected from the legendary warrior race. "Commander, Dong-hyun has shared human music with me," the Empress continued. "Their songs speak of love, loss, hope, and sacrifice. They are not so different from our own." "But Your Majesty," interrupted Chancellor Mordas from the Hegemony Worlds, "humans are still dangerous. Their military capabilities are beyond anything we possess." "Yes," the Empress agreed. "They are dangerous. That is exactly why we need them." She changed the holographic display to show star charts marking recent pirate attacks and territorial disputes. "The galaxy is not a peaceful place," she said. "Even with the swarm defeated, there are other threats. Pirates, raiders, rogue artificial intelligences, and species that respect only strength. We civilized peoples prefer diplomacy and trade. But sometimes, those tools are not enough." Admiral Kyung-soo from the Empress's own fleet spoke up. "What exactly are you proposing, Your Majesty?" "I propose the creation of the Human Warrior Accords," the Empress announced. "Formal agreements recognizing humans not as savage barbarians, but as necessary guardians of civilized space." The room erupted in shocked conversation. Several ambassadors stood and began arguing loudly. The idea of officially allying with human warriors terrified many species. "Please," the Empress called for order. "Let me explain." When the room quieted, she continued. "We would establish joint training academies, where human warriors learn our concepts of honor and restraint, while our soldiers learn human tactics.